Hi, everyone, and welcome to our weekly CTL podcast. We have Dan Lauder here with us today, and he is our senior instructional designer and our LMS administrator. He is just fresh back from the HLC in Chicago, and he's got some things that we as faculty need to know that they are going to be looking for. I think they're visiting us in a couple of years. Things that we probably already do, but need to make sure we're doing based on their expectations. Dan, welcome.
Thank you. So I got a few questions that I think that we might be interested in finding out what HLC is going to look at. So I went to the session that says how to build a quality distance education program. And these are based on the federal guidelines, and the HLC guidelines are pretty much mirror each other. So what is a distance education? It seems to be that HLC and federal guidelines are moving towards using the word distance education versus online learning. So the question I have is, what is distance education? And basically, it is instruction that is between an instructor and student that is a regular interaction. But for it to fall under the category of distance education, it has to use certain technologies. And these technologies would be the internet, one-way or two-way transmission through cable or wireless, audio conferencing, or video conferencing. Next one is, what is a distance education course? So a distance education course would be identified as at least 75% of the instruction and interaction that's going on between the instructor and student are using one or more of those technologies that I just talked about, which would be the internet, one-way or two-way transmission through cable or wireless, or audio conferencing or video conferencing. What is a distance education program? It is identified, so when HLC comes in and we say we have these online programs, they're going to look and see if it meets their criteria. And their criteria is 50% of the certificate or the degree that they're pursuing is being taken as a distance education, which means it comes back to that 75% rule. Now, when we're looking at distance education or online learning, I'm just going to call it online learning because I like that term better than distance education. HLC is going to come in looking at whether we are using what they call RSI. RSI stands for Regular Substantive Interaction. So when they're looking at our online course, they want to know if we are using the guidelines of RSI. So let's look at what is RSI. So the first one would be regular. So what is regular interaction? Okay, so the regular interaction you're going to have is going to be scheduled and predictable. And by that, when you design your online course, you want to make sure you design it and to deliver it with a schedule the students can rely on and a prediction the student can rely on that you're going to meet certain times. Regular interaction means you're going to be proactive as the instructor, which means as the instructor, it is your requirement to reach out to the students and don't wait for the students to reach out to you. Also, regular interaction means that it's going to be proportionate to the course you're teaching. So if you're teaching a 4-week course, if you're teaching an 8-week course or 14-week course or a 16-week course, your interaction with the student has to be proportional to that. So let's give an example. If you're teaching a 16-week course and you bombard the student on the first 2 weeks, and then the last 14 weeks you're silent, that would not be considered regular interaction. So your interaction has to be based on the type of course that you're teaching. So it means it's pretty much ongoing. What is substantive interaction? And substantive interaction means that you as an instructor are engaging with the students with at least 2 of these factors. You have to provide direct instruction, whether that's synchronous or asynchronous, through lectures or videos. You also have to assess the student's work, and you have to provide feedback on the student's work. And this assessment or this feedback should be personalized assessment and feedback and not just automated. So if you feel like you're setting up an online course and it's like, hey, I got everything graded for me, I don't have nothing to worry about, that would be considered automated and not personalized assessment or feedback. You also need to provide information for them. So you need to say, hey, go read this chapter. Go look at this case study. Go watch this video. So you need to provide information to them and not just assume they're going to read what you put on there. And then you need to give them answers. So throughout my career in higher education, I've had many students, and I'm guessing everyone listening has had this, come up to me and say, do you know so-and-so? Man, they just never answer my emails or they never respond. Okay, that would not be the S of RSI, which is a substantive interaction. Another factor that it falls under that would be that you would be also facilitating a group discussion. So to recap this, if you want to be identified as having substantive interaction, you have to have at least 2 of those factors that are being evident in your course that you're teaching. And that is what I learned from the HLC session.
So you teach online courses, and I'm going to use the term online courses. What do you do that you think qualifies for what they're looking for?
Well, one of the things that I do is when I give them feedback, I put their name in there, instead of just saying, hey, good job. I actually address their name. And then for a discussion board, let's just use this as an example. If they were saying, I think the free version of my app is good, but I'm really kind of limited because I can't buy the pro version because it's expensive. So I would highlight a phrase of their comments and say, hey, this is a very good insight of what you said about how the pro version is better, but you can't afford it. So I highlight actual words or comments that they say in their discussion or in their papers. And then I put that in there in the comments, say, hey, Cindy, you wrote this. And then I'll put that in there and then I'll make a comment. Very good insight. Hey, did you think about this? And then I make sure I put their name in there.
Oh, so what about emails? How quick are you on emails? That's one substantive thing that they said that would count.
Yes,
right?
Right. So emails that you have to reach out to, I tried to be fairly responsible within 24 hours. We tried to make it a best practice of 48 hours. We do know sometimes that the weekend happens and things come up, but try to make a best practice to respond within 48 hours. But I always try to respond within 24 hours. And I think I'm probably doing a good job on that aspect because I have had students say, hey, you do a good job on responding back.
I have found that I ask my students to email me only through Canvas because that way I know that I've answered their question and there's a track record of that. If they go into my regular Jeffco email, it gets buried and I will get to it, but it's not as quick as when I get to it with Canvas. You mentioned facilitating discussions. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you facilitate, I would say you get a group discussion and then you start actively getting to them. Hey, did you think about this? Hey, what did you learn from this person? What I have done in the past is someone might post something in the discussion and say, hey, I'm talking about, an environmental issue. And then I'll tell the students, I'll say, okay, post that in your discussion. And then I will have the students, now I want you to go and they might have put like 3 strengths of electrical vehicles. I would tell the student, now that the one peer has put that in there, go and research it and find one other issue that he did not bring up or that she did not bring up. So I kind of guide them to facilitate, to help them, encourage them to do further communication and further research of than just the, oh yeah, great idea.
Yeah, that's not substantive. When the students do that, we
Right.
don't want to say, I agree with you, right?
Right.
And we say use their name so that
Yes.
you'll know. I go back and see that what that student said that one student responded to, and then I reply to both of them.
And I also try to do this. I know it's kind of, some people might like it, some don't. I do require a certain amount of words for discussion.
Okay.
And then if the students do not meet that, they get points deducted. But I only do that to steer them away from, that was a great idea. I never thought of that.
And how many words do you require minimum?
It all depends. But usually I do the initial post can be 50. And then if it's at least 25 word response.
Okay.
Okay. Of course, if this is on an associate level, but if you get in the master's level, you're talking about 500 word response, 250. I don't do that. I do like 50, 25. And then I'll say that you have to respond to at least one student or 2 students. I make sure that's in there in the descriptor.
How do you use the announcements, and would that qualify as substance? Quality responses?
That's a tricky word. I understand that. I don't use the only time I use announcements, and it would qualify, is like, hey, students, I can't make it to class for such and such reason or something like that. In most cases, I'll communicate with the students through the Canvas emails or through our institutional email.
Do you use group discussions? And do you break your distance classes in groups and facilitate assignments through the
Yeah,
group discussions?
Yeah, I find it's difficult to really get them activated when you break them into groups. If you're not active in facilitating it,
Mm-hmm.
they won't reach out. If you have 5 students per group,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have 2 that do all the work,
Right.
and the
right.
other 3 aren't communicating.
Right.
And so I try to steer away from that just because feedback from students,
Yeah.
even they say, I don't like group work because no one ever
Nobody
communicates.
does it. 1 or 2 people. You're
Right.
exactly right. Exactly right.
So when I do that, I require 2 due dates when I do groups. So like, let's say I had a due date of May 30th for the group paper. A week before that, May 23rd, each student would individually have to submit all work that they completed in regards to that group project. Because then that way I can review to see if they actually did it. Because if I just have it as one due date and you submit it as a group, I don't know who submitted what, and I don't know if they did it. So the week before, every student has to submit their individual work that they have contributed to the project. And when they submit a group paper, I always make sure in your heading, put the student's name who did this section so that I could review to see in that document, okay, Joe did this one, Cindy did this section. And then I could verify whether that mirrors what they sent me a week earlier.
So how do you think they're going to check that when they visit us?
That's a good question. Good question. I think they're probably going to go in. I think they might probably do a quality matters type review. And I think they'd go in and look at that and look at the comments that are being done in there. And they're probably going to want to look at some of the documentations download to see what the students have submitted. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go in there and just kind of do like a light quality matters review and just go actually in the core shell.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that.
And to see if there are some interactions.
Right. And, I've been a part of that before on different issues, and they've actually contacted us, the faculty, and said, hey, we're going to submit your class for them to look at. So you don't know who that's going to be, but they have called us before and said, hey, this is what they're looking for. Can they look at your class?
Yes, right. They do give you a heads up. Hey, here's what we're going to want. Pull this information.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else you learned at HLC that we need to know about from a faculty's perspective?
That to me was what interesting is what I kind of focused on. There's a few other ones, but the one that I really want to focus on that was the distance education. I just thought it was interesting that they're kind of leaning towards the term distance education versus online learning. I do think because 47% of our students here at Jefferson College engage with some type of online class.
Interesting.
I do think that it's going to be an area that HLC is probably going to latch onto in the future, reviews. So I think it's an area that we need to start looking at to really tighten up our standards and our requirements.
Have you seen a big difference in our online education since COVID? I know COVID was a big deal with online education. Everybody had to do it then. Are you getting any feedback from students as far as what kind of classes they want? 47% is almost half, right?
Mm-hmm.
But are students asking for more online classes? What's your feedback you're hearing?
I haven't really heard anything from the students on, if they wanted more online class, stuff like that. In regards to online classes from students, really one of the biggest comments that I do get from students regarding online learning is they don't like discussion boards. They like, why do we have the discussion boards? They just seem like a waste of time. Like I'm just checking off the box, and it's really it's not conducive to my learning. So I can hear frustration in the students on the discussion boards, which I think ties right back to, I would not be surprised if HLC was hearing a lot of that as well, and why they're trying to educate faculty on the RSI, about make sure we have that interaction. Because I think what the students really are commenting about is that they don't feel that the discussion boards are interactive.
Well, we had these benchmarks that we had to have with online courses in the day. We had to have student to student,
Yes.
student to faculty, faculty to student.
Yes.
I think that's what we had to have. And discussion boards were that topic. Now, I have changed my discussion boards to make them more interactive, and I've gotten more positive feedback from our students. And also, it's helpful for me. They answer the question, they responded to students with their name, and lastly, they have to give me what their insights are from the chapter and from the discussion. So that helps me really gauge, do they know the content? Are they getting the content?
Yes, right.
So
and that would
it's 5 parts. It's
Right.
not just answer one question.
And that is a great interaction right there.
It has been. It has been. It's helped me assess the students' knowledge.
And I think with the students, I'd say the majority of students aren't experiencing that type of interaction. So that's where that frustration
comes into. Well, we've just got to focus on that and motivate our faculty to do that.
Here's what I think. With the online, we're just seeing it grow. I think people are becoming more comfortable with it. All right. So they're saying, hey, yeah, I think I'll do it. So I see there's more comfort in there. But what I've also learned as I went through the Quality Matters, got certified through peer review and all that, master reviewer, I learned that as I learned to make an online course better, it just automatically affected my face-to-face.
Of course. And
so if we bring this interaction, this RSI, into the distance education online learning environment, it is going to impact your face-to-face.
So we really need to set standards as far as once a week I'm going to do this, every other week I'm going to do this, I'm going to use announcements, I'm going to use discussions, I'm going to have, and I will tell you, I put comments on all the assessments. Students don't read my comments.
They don't read
unless they get a bad grade. Then they think, well, they say, what did I do wrong? And I'm like, read the comments. Anytime that you don't make 100%, there's comments in there.
You're absolutely right. So here's what I do for when I have in my face-to-face and in my online classes, every week I have I call it a participation quiz. So there's one every week. So if the students complete these, they're going to get another 40 points. But it's a participation quiz, and they can only take it when I give them the code, okay? But in the online environment, it has 2 questions. It says, I read all my instructor's comments, and I reviewed my grade book this week. And so I have this quiz set up every week as a participation quiz so that every week they have to go in and answer those 2 questions. I read all the comments from my instructor, and I reviewed my grade book for the week. Even if they didn't, it's still a reminder to say, hey, maybe I need to do this.
Okay.
Because
that's a good one.
Because I see that's an issue where you'll give comments and students, 6 weeks in, they'll say, I didn't know, how am I supposed to know this?
Yeah.
Well, I love, so that
you got to just refocus them on what to look at. Well, as a recap, Dan, what are the 3 things that are most important that you got from HLC in regard to what faculty need to know and be ready for?
As a recap, I really think the thing that we need to focus on would be to look at how you design your online course and how you deliver it. And this goes to your face-to-face course. And look and see if you are providing the RSI, which is a regular substantive interaction. I think that's the key point.
And 2, I'm sure you'd be glad to look at anybody's course that would want you to say, hey, Dan, take a look at my course and see what I need to improve on.
As always, I am available when anyone needs to call. I will schedule in to help you and to work with you to make quality courses.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your time and appreciate what you do for the college.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time on the CTL podcast.